Welcome back. Recovery from an affair in marriage can be difficult. How do you move to a place of forgiveness? Find out more in this segment of Better Indiana. Given the intense pain and betrayal of affairs, how does the victim of an affair forgive their cheating spouse?
The word victim, we here really object to that word, because the way we view it is there's never ever a victim in a marriage. There's people who marry exactly the right person for a reason to reenact their unresolved childhood issues. So the first thing we do is really challenge how people think, and we challenge that concept of there being a victim and a bad guy. Any person in a marriage who has a victim mentality, it's a marriage killer. The person who was cheated on, I generally ask them if there was any abandonment in their childhood, a distant father, a parent who died, a parent who left, and there always is.
Can you share some stories from your experience regarding how your approach can help to save a marriage?
They brought this guy in, his family members brought him in as if off the field of battle and plunked him in a chair. And I said, "What happened to you?" And it turned out that his wife had asked him to leave and said she needed some time. And then he discovered that she was actually living at her boyfriend's house. And he was just shattered by that. But after a couple weeks of examining his childhood issues, looking at who she was, figuring out why he married her, he said with all sincerity that her having that affair was actually the best thing that had ever happened to him. I've seen a lot of, worked with a lot of people whose parents, it's usually the dad had an affair and the mom sort of stayed angry about it, and that actually damaged the next generation more than the dad who had the affair. And I just really, if a woman is out there in this situation, there's a lot that can be done to help her now without him necessarily changing, quitting, whatever he needs to do. She can get a lot of help now that can make the situation a lot better, so I encourage her to get that help.
If you'd like to find out more about Mark Smith and Family Tree Counseling, just log on to myndytv.com and click on Better Indiana. Better will return after this. Welcome back. Does your husband refuse to go to marriage counseling with you? Find out how to handle this situation in this segment of Better Indiana. So many women are open to marital counseling, but their husbands absolutely refuse to darken the door of any counseling office. What's a woman supposed to do then?
Every spring I go to Myrtle Beach, and on the way I get to about Tennessee and I run into some tunnels in a mountain. And that sort of represents how it is for a woman that needs to impact a counter-dependent. The counter-dependent is the mountain, and the tunnel is to communicate, to get through, and the woman is the engineer who created that tunnel, and a lot of what the tool that those engineers use is dynamite. So what the wife needs is more dynamite, and anger represents her dynamite. But what we do in her therapy is to help her get in touch with her anger, and then he gets to get blown up. She can come by herself, leave him at home, and come and get some dynamite, and then down the road, a year later, then we'll start blowing some stuff up.
So you're saying that the husband doesn't actually have to attend the session for the marriage to get better?
Absolutely. A lot of times when the husband attends, if he's not motivated and teachable and really feeling some feelings. If he's not open to the process, all he does is get in the way and sabotage.
How does the process of counseling work for a woman who begins therapy without her husband present?
The first thing we do is we complete a family tree or a genogram. Everything there is to know about them, and we take that and put it all on one piece of paper using lots of color coding and 4 generations. And that will help us figure out exactly what's going on in that marriage, in that person's life. Secondly, we do a feedback session, which is an 1.5-hour session where we're looking to instill a lot of insight and a lot of knowledge into that particular client. We steer them toward what we call recovery. There is a woman who doesn't have enough assertiveness to impact her husband, and we would call that codependency. And codependency is somebody who tends to be insecure, more dependent, too other-centered, and somewhat passive. And then the next step in the process generally is some group therapy.
Thanks for watching this segment of Better Indiana. If you'd like to find out more about this topic, log on to myndytv.com for more information. Stay tuned. Better will return after this. Welcome back to Better Indiana. Today we'll explain what sexual addiction is and how it may affect a marriage. Mark Smith will tell us more. Could you define what sexual addiction is?
Just like any addiction, it's using a substance that causes you to be out of control, using a substance that helps to medicate feelings, and using a substance that results in having painful, negative, destructive consequences for your life.
It seems like we read about sex-related crimes more and more. Is sexual addiction on the rise?
That's a controversial topic. Some people say yes, some people say no, just given their perspectives. But generally the thinking is that it's really on the rise, mainly because of the power of the internet. The main addiction sexually these days isn't strip clubs or even affairs, it's internet pornography.
If a woman has a husband who is addicted to internet pornography, strip clubs, sex with other women, what can she do to protect herself, to get help for him, and to save her marriage?
The main thing she needs to do is get her focus off of him and what he's doing or not doing. And she needs to begin her own therapy. She needs to find out why she married him. People always marry exactly the right person. And my experience has been if there's a man with a real intense sexual addiction, almost always there's a father or a mother with some form of either sexual addiction or maybe alcoholism or drug addiction. But people who grow up with addicts marry addicts. Her life is about her. He didn't do this to her. So that's what we get her busy looking at. And then as she becomes empowered and insightful, she very well may need to separate if he continues in his sexual addiction. And that will either impact him to be motivated to look at his sexual addiction and come to therapy and go to 12-step groups, or it might end the marriage, but desperate times call for desperate measures.
If you'd like to find out more, log on to myndytv.com and click on Better Indiana. Thanks for watching. Better will be back after this.